Hi there, and welcome to the 48th episode of Career Stories Live. So today I'm joined by Sarah Townsend. So welcome, Sarah. Thank you for joining.
Hi, lovely to be here.
Yeah, it's great to meet you again. So we met through the Espresso Plus community, I think, to start with, and we ended up sitting next to each other at an event. And I remember you liking my shoes, I liking your skirt.
The Jordans.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's how we met. We met a couple of times since then. So it's really great to have you on.
Thank you.
So anyone that's watching, please do comment to let us know that you're here, where you're joining from. Feel free to ask any questions or share your experience in the comments. And just in case anyone's watching that hasn't watched before, the basis for my lives are that I've always been really interested in what people do, why they do it. I really like learning about different roles and career paths. It's kind of why I'm a career coach, and that gave me the idea for the live. So really the aim is to inspire thought about what people could do, so whether they're a career changer or just getting started in their career, and give people advice on places to source information. And normally my guests give some great advice that kind of correlates with their career. So if we go straight over to you, Sarah, so can you give us a brief intro into you and what it is you're doing right now work-wise?
So I've been a freelance copywriter for 25 years. This is my 25th year. And one of the things that I'm really focusing on right now is this service that I've been doing forever, but I've only just kind of branded it. And as a result, it's given me so much clarity on how to position the benefits and the outcomes to my clients. It's called DocuMagic. And I'm really excited by that because my clients never come to me and say, can you do some copywriting for me? Can you do some editing for me? They just come to me and say, oh, we've got this document. We've had a go at writing it. Can you work your magic? Hence the name DocuMagic. So that is what I'm focusing on right now. And yeah, that's the main thing.
Excellent. Okay, so we'll talk a bit more about how you got into copywriting, but so I always start with early careers though. So did you have a job whilst you were at school or college? And if so, what was it, and has that helped you in any way?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So when I was doing my A-levels, I used to work in Woolworths from like 4 to 6 p.m. every night. And it was the best job in the world for me because I got to work behind the record bar. I don't know if you remember shops that had record bars, and I used to choose what music everybody. It's like being a DJ inside Woolworths. Most people watching probably won't even know what Woolworths is, but it was this shop, and we had these hideous uniforms that were like the scratchiest of material. But it was great because we got to have a couple of cheeky pick and mix at the end of the day while we were waiting to go back upstairs to our lockers, and I got to choose the music.
That is so cool that we literally had the exact same job. So I know I loved it. The sense of power that people had come in and say, "Can you play this?" No,
I don't like it.
I know, it's brilliant. I remember, and that uniform, it was like a navy blue tabard with a striped shirt. Yeah.
I had the one before though, as well as that one. I remember when they upgraded us to the stripy one, and it was significantly better. But I also have this real specific memory of playing George Michael and Aretha Franklin's "I Knew You Were Waiting for Me," and I just loved it. And I've always been obsessed with music. I found a new Zumba track the other day that I just loved. I came out of the class, downloaded it, and then I'll put it on repeat for an entire day while I'm working because it just energizes me and keeps me focused. And I remember feeling the same with that song, and I think the management were getting a bit cheesed off with me playing the same song.
I think we had this parallel life going on because exactly the same.
Not the same song, that would be really weird.
It was the same. I was a massive George fan, so yes. Anyway, so Craig's joined, so thank you for joining.
Craig. We missed him at Uplift Live.
Yeah, the Wonder of Woolies. I mean, it was a great place to work, definitely. Okay, so did you go to university?
No.
And was that conscious choice? You decided just wanted to get started?
Yeah, it was very much, I remember specifically while I was doing my A-levels, the head of sixth form, the careers advisor, and the head of year getting me in their office and saying it's a wasted opportunity. You must go to university. Because my parents were really quite, they didn't, I don't want to say they didn't really care what I did, but they never pushed me. So they never pressurized me to go to uni. Nobody in my family had been to uni until my daughter and now my son. But no, I just wasn't interested. I just wanted to go out there and start earning money. So I ignored them telling me that that my peers who were going to uni would start work 3 years later on 10 grand more than I was earning, because I'd have had 3 years worth of income. And I just wanted to get out there and experience the real world and feel that sense of independence. So that's what I ended up doing.
Yeah. Wow. Another thing exactly the same.
Oh my gosh.
There was 2 of us in the whole 6th one that didn't apply, and they made us stand up in assembly.
No.
Look at us because we hadn't applied.
No, that's practically bullying.
Yeah.
Gosh.
But no, I didn't do either. Okay, and I know now that you did start your career in a similar way to me as well. So can you talk about how you started your career and how did you find that first job, if you can remember?
Okay, so it was actually just so much easier then than it is now, I think, for young people. So I had finished my A-levels, or I was coming to the end of my A-levels, and I've got a specific memory of being in the school hall, and I think we were doing a performance of The Ancient Mariner. I mean, I wasn't doing it. I didn't do drama, but that's not true. I did theatre studies for A-level. What am I talking about? But I don't think I acted in it. And I remember getting a phone call about these 2 jobs that I'd applied for. I just went for 2 financial services companies, just admin sort of support roles. And the reason I chose, and I share this story in my first book, Survival Skills for Freelancers, I applied for Eagle Star and Allied Dunbar, and it was basically the exact same job, trying to attract school leavers with A-levels. And I chose the one that had the swanky office, because I used to go night clubbing in Swindon, like, oh, the joys. And I used to walk from the train station to the Brunel rooms where I used to go clubbing. And it was that acid house era, remember that? Yeah. And I just remember walking along the little wall and looking up at this office and thinking, yeah, I want to work there. I have no idea what they did. Just wanted to work there. Kind of felt a bit aspirational as far as office blocks are concerned. And that was how I chose which job to go for. And I remember one of them was £4,997, and the other one was slightly more expensive and the slightly better paid. And the one I went for was the one with the swanky building and the slightly better pay.
Yeah. Excellent. Yeah, no, that's cool. I also started in financial services, so I know.
The parallels continue. Are we the same person?
I know. So I can see John Experience arrived. So thank you, John.
He's still showing up as LinkedIn user.
Yeah, very weird. So I know you can sort that out in your settings, but John, you'll know how to do that. And Craig says he can see him. So okay, good to know. Thank you. Okay, so how did your career progress then since that first role that you took on after A-levels?
So I remember when I was working for Allied Dunbar, because I was doing the clubbing predominantly in, this is relevant, honestly, because I was doing the clubbing predominantly in Swindon. I remember I had a couple of friends who suggested we went to a nightclub in Cheltenham, which is much nearer where I was living in Cirencester. Actually, probably equidistant. And we went to this nightclub, and while we were there, I met my then, oh God, what am I trying to say? Like the guy who would become my husband.
Okay, yeah.
My ex-husband as of 15 years ago, but I met him in a nightclub, and we just, we had quite a, I wouldn't say it was a whirlwind romance or anything. It was just, I don't know. I don't remember it being like that at all, but we did decide to buy. I mean, this is like, you wouldn't do this now at 21 when I met him. So I bought my first place and got a mortgage with this guy I barely knew, like ADHD, impulsivity, anyone. And we met on the 1st of December and moved in on the 10th of May the following year. Wow. So I was working in Swindon, and I didn't want to be doing a commute from Gloucester to Swindon every day. So I thought maybe I can switch to Eagle Star. They were both at the time part of BAT, which was British and American Tobacco.
Right.
which is very, very odd when you think back. But I didn't manage to switch exactly, but I kind of went from doing an admin role in Allied Dunbar after 3 years, and I don't know, I'm doing the sign language either. I can't stop talking with my hands. It's inevitable. And yeah, I went and started work at Eagle Star, and after a year, their marketing department relocated from London to Cheltenham. And I just fancied working in marketing. I didn't really know anything about it. I just thought it sounded a bit fancy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was, I think the year I got married, 1994, was the same year I got my first job in marketing. And then from there, I was a marketing, like a lowly marketing assistant, kind of the most basic level. And I remember there was a few of us changing, because obviously a lot of people didn't want to relocate from London to Cheltenham. And I started on the same day as about 3 other people. We had to go and work in London for a bit for the handover period. And I remember somebody who'd been brought in at a higher level than me on her first day saying, "Oh, I'm getting to do some copywriting." I thought, well, what's that? No, hadn't heard of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just thought it was something to do with copying other people's writing, which is very definitely is not.
Yeah.
And yeah, from there, I just kind of worked my way up to being in control of all Eagle Star's publications. I was called publications controller. I had a couple of members of staff that I interviewed. First person I ever interviewed is still a good friend 27 years later. And yeah, that was it really. It was kind of quite organic.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. So when did you decide to start up your own business? Was there like a trigger point or something like that?
Yeah, so from Eagle Star, they made a third of their marketing department redundant 3 years later. So I'd been working for the company for 3 years, and they were offering, this was the 90s, they were offering really attractive redundancy packages. And I was working with a magazine publishing company down in Bristol. So I approached them and said, look, would you consider taking me on if I take voluntary redundancy? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. You can start as a account director and editor. So I finished working at Eagle Star on the Friday with an 11 grand payoff after 3 years, which was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And enabled me to pay off my negative equity. Do you remember that?
Yes.
On my very first flat.
Yeah.
And started at Specialist on the Monday. Like, I think with hindsight, I would have taken like at least a long weekend.
Yes. Yeah.
But just wanted to kind of get stuck in. So, and then I was there for 3 years and became pregnant. And that was the catalyst, because I didn't want to be doing a commute to Bristol from Gloucester every day with a baby in nursery down here. And I knew I would need to get back to work quite quickly. So, yeah, it just seemed the obvious thing to do, because I could do it part-time. I could fit it around the hours that Amy was in nursery, and everything about it just felt right.
Yeah. Oh, that's really good. So how long did it kind of get you to establish yourself? So getting clients and all that kind of stuff?
I was really lucky. That happened really quickly. I just have this memory that while I was still pregnant and I was on maternity leave, I was creating my very first business card design in Comic Sans.
Yeah.
Hot pink, and I've stuck with a hot pink, but I haven't stuck with the Comic Sans.
Yeah,
and I was sending out cold, it wasn't even emails back then, because email wasn't really, like, there was no social media, there was barely any internet.
Yeah.
So it was just letters on letterheaded paper. And I wrote out to a few local businesses, including all the local councils around me, and just kind of fell on my feet. I got some book editing work with a company that published kind of alternative health and therapy books. So I worked on 3 books, one on Indian head massage, one on dream therapy, and one on magnet healing.
Wow.
I love that, because I got to go into, because I had by then kind of realized I was going to be feeling really isolated. Something I talk about a lot in Survival Skills. It's the first chapter of the book, because especially when you come from a busy, buzzy agency environment, suddenly working on your own is really challenging. So it was great because I could actually travel to Stroud every day and just go and work in their offices. It was lovely.
Yeah.
And then I also picked up the local council, and I ended up just basically editing, but also doing the layout for their newspaper. They used to go out to every household in the borough. And that was just a perfect job as well. I just loved it. And kind of everything stemmed from there.
Yeah.
So I definitely got lucky with those couple of cold inquiries, because I don't have to do cold inquiries now. I'm really glad. I'm really grateful.
Yes. Yeah. And it's hard, isn't it? I remember when I set up mine doing, I had little postcards. Basically, I was doing CV writing at that point and just going around the houses, putting postcards through doors and things like that.
That's a good idea.
Hard work.
Yeah.
Okay. So Craig's just saying, you talk like you're old. I've got shoes older than both of you.
I'm older than you think, Craig.
Okay, so talking of your book then, so what was it that gave you the idea and the confidence to write your own book?
Well, you know how everybody says everyone has a book in them? I was not that person. I used to tell people I would never write a book, and I don't really know what changed. You and I were talking before we went live about energy and about how my whole career has been driven by energy. If I'm not feeling the energy behind something, or if I'm feeling that sense in my gut, that's a red flag for me. And I've learned over a lot of years, 25 years of working for myself, to really listen to my gut. And when my body's trying to tell me something, I need to listen. So the January of 2020, I just had this idea, because I'd written this. It was a blog post basically, and it was kind of the things you might not know about freelance life. It was a really heart on your sleeve, dead straight talking, which is 100% me anyway. Very honest account, I guess, of some of the things that I'd learned and the mistakes that I didn't want other people to make as a result. And it was by far the most popular blog I had written at the time. And I thought, there's a market for this. I can really help a lot of people. And I'd been freelance by then 20 years. Yeah. So I felt as if it was time to give something back to the freelance community. So realistically, it's quite funny actually, because after I'd written it, about 18 months later, I was listening to Daniel Priestley's Key Person of Influence on Audible, and it was like, you need to write a book and establish yourself as an expert in your field, etc. I know a lot of people who have done that, and those are not the best books. You can tell, like the intention behind it is quite obvious, I think. But with Survival Skills, I just wanted to share. I wanted to help people. That was the only motivation, and that was where the energy came from. Yeah, because I'm sharing my 20 years of experience to bust the 8 myths of freelance life. But it's not just my voice that's coming across in that book. It also has little quotes and case studies from 100 other freelancers. Yeah. So you're getting a lot of people's voices and a lot of people's advice. It's such a valuable place to start, or to give yourself a boost if you're feeling stuck in your freelance career. Or, I mean, I got 5-star reviews for that book from people who've been freelance 20 years saying, I thought I knew it all, but here we go, you know. So, yeah, the energy was behind it. That was really the only reason. And then, of course, it launched in the middle of the first lockdown, and I got invited on BBC Radio Gloucestershire to talk about it, because everybody was faced with working from home, whether you were self-employed. And just kept getting invited on to, you know, can you be a mentor for this freelance scheme? And I got a little bit, I'm jumping ahead.
That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, okay. So in terms of the book things, I know lots of people that talk to me about their writing a book. How did you decide on like the whole publishing route? Because I understand that's like a bit of a trip-in stage about self-publishing, or publisher or?
It was never. It is a big. It's a big sticking point for a lot of people, but it was never a sticking point for me because I'm a control freak. I've worked on my own for 20 years. I mean, obviously, I do my client work, but I do it best when I'm left to get on with it. You know, I can't deal with micromanaging, and I just thought if I go down the traditional publishing route, I'm going to. They're going to take control of the name of the book and the title and the cover design and the structure. Because I've been a copywriter for 20 years by that point, I knew exactly how I wanted it to be written, structured. And I knew that people had always found my writing very accessible, very reassuring, comforting, confidence inspiring. So it was never an issue for me. It was always going to be self-publishing.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. So you said your first book. So how many books have you written, and have you got any more in the pipeline? 2.
Yeah, I have got another one in the pipeline actually. So this is what the first one looks like.
Yeah.
Hot pink, and this is the second one. This is I just adore this, but I adore them both. It's like having a favorite child.
Yeah.
But this one is it just everybody can benefit from this book, because like on a weekly basis, somebody will tell me that they have got a copy of it and they'll go, oh yeah, I bought it for my niece, but I looked through it and then I'm like, oh my God, I've been writing this wrong my entire life. And it's gorgeous.
Yeah, it is cool. Yeah.
So I think everybody in the world should have a copy of that book. It's won 3 awards last year, including a gold award. And it's helped people in 22 countries, which is insane considering it's a book about English language.
Yeah.
I was really surprised by that. Wasn't anticipating that at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's 600 confusing words kind of demystified, but it's the thing that makes it different is, yes, it's a book about spelling on the surface.
Yeah.
But it's fun, and it's really hard to communicate. My book is about spelling, but it's also fun.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a very difficult thing to get across.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Okay. So everyone I've spoken to has talked about their values and when they're looking for work. So whether you're, about working with clients or who you work for and that kind of thing. So, and I know we've spoken about this offline anyway, but do your personal values have an impact on your work and who you work with?
Yeah, well, certainly in terms of who I'll work with, I've turned down work when it is outside of my values on the most basic level, like a Q80 oil company, for example. So I won't work with any business that is harming the environment. I like to work with purpose-led businesses, best of all, and it doesn't have to be environmental or sustainability, but just a business that has an intention underpinning what they do that is bringing some form of good into the world. That's the dream, isn't it? To work with solely those kinds of business, but I will turn work down if it doesn't fit my values. But that's a really good question. I think in terms of looking for work, I like curiosity is a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
So when I'm having that discovery call, that kind of initial chemistry call or whatever you want to call it, if I don't get, I'll be always kind of asking the questions, trying to find out what drives the business owner or the marketing manager or whoever I'm going to be dealing with. And without fail, I'll get that goosebumps moment and I'll think, yeah, this is a fit. So is energy a value? I don't know, but curiosity and honesty is huge for me. Like I am very direct spoken, and sometimes I think I could probably do with softening things, but I'm just very much like, okay, let's get this, let's get it done. I'm very immediate and I just want to get started straight away because I want them to see how easy it can be. And I want them to see how much value it can add to their business and how much easier it can make their lives when they work with me. So I'm always very keen to get started. But yeah, honesty has to be there, like trust with the person that you're working with. Very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So advice. So have you got any advice for students who are maybe about to leave school, college or university and they want to write somehow in their work?
Yeah, good question. I would definitely say practice. Just write as much as you can. Build writing in every single way you can think of into your daily routine, even if it's journaling. You start your morning off with journaling a few pages, or putting out social posts. So you might think that LinkedIn is for people who already have jobs, but certainly if you were just leaving school and you were looking for work in a particular field, everything you put out there into the world is potentially showcasing your skills. I have this because my son is 21. He's just finished his second year of uni, and he's doing English and creative writing. He is a phenomenal creative writer, way better than I would ever be. But I think he could become a famous fiction writer. But he practices all the time.
Yeah.
He kind of lives what he wants to do. And I think if you like kind of project forward, it can be difficult to do, but if you kind of can see yourself in a particular role in a particular industry, or say in George's case, he'd love to work for somebody like Empire magazine, so he approached them for work experience. He's got work experience with them next month. Really proud of him for that. So show initiative, proactive. I think initiative and being proactive are more important. Like having the right, what's that really cheesy quote? Is it Oprah? It's your attitude, not your aptitude, that determines your altitude. So it's really cheesy, but attitude and mindset, and just having the tenacity to approach the people that you like to work for is a really big thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in this market, like you've said before, it is hard to find first jobs, particularly if you're in a slightly niche industry, I guess. So I think, and it's very easy, I think, to say, oh, so many people want to do this, I'm not going to get anything, but actually keep going and keep trying. And like you say, practice in the sidelines, definitely.
Back yourself, I think, because if you don't have that self-confidence, no one else is going to. That people do pick up on that. So if you're putting things out there and you've got your ideas and opinions on things that are perhaps relevant to the industry you want to go into, don't be afraid to formulate those ideas into social posts on LinkedIn, for example, because then when recruiters or individual businesses are looking for someone to hire, you've got that background. It's not a portfolio exactly, is it? But it effectively is all showcasing your work and your abilities. So just
definitely. Yeah, that's good. And what about advice for people who want to write a book, given that you've done 2 and got another on the way? So if someone's got the idea but they're a bit scared to do it, what would you say?
Make sure that your motivation is not to make money, because you won't make money from self-publishing, or even really going down the traditional route, unless you're J.K. Rowling or somebody who is super, super prolific and becomes super famous. But, I get a nice steady income from it. But definitely, I mean, I offer book coaching sessions, and kind of just having one kickstart session can be a really good way of putting all those questions out there and exploring, is it right for you? Because you do have to be disciplined. You do have to be prepared to put a shed load of energy and enthusiasm and commitment into marketing your book, because you could have the best book in the world, but if you're not prepared to put yourself out there and talk about it and share it and encourage other people to share it, it's not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Okay, so finally, how can people work with you if they'd like to?
Kind of forgotten what my what my key call to action was supposed to be for this.
You're going to be talking about your new webinar, aren't you?
Oh, yeah. So I am doing a webinar because I think things are really tough out there for freelancers at the moment, and it's difficult to know how to market your own business. So since I wrote Survival Skills for Freelancers, I've done hundreds of webinars for thousands of people, but they're always groups and professional bodies. I've never offered my webinars before to individuals. So I am just share the link. I don't know whether that goes into the chat or just goes to you, Sarah, but for £33 on National Freelancers Day, you can come along for a 45-minute webinar, and it's 6 simple steps to market your freelance business.
Yeah.
And yeah, £33, and it's kind of lots of strategies that will not cost you a lot in terms of time, money, or energy, and a shed load of value. But also hop onto, you know, if you want to work with me in terms of copywriting or the DocuMagic service I talked about earlier, that is my website. But do feel free.
I'll share that in the chat afterwards. Yeah.
Me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
To connect. And you know, if you get a chance, if you've got enough allocation of personalized messages left this month, then do connect and drop me a personalized message and say you saw me on Sarah's show, because I always love to know where people find it. It's really important.
Definitely it is. Yeah, I always ask people that, like, where did you find me? It's so good to know. Okay.
It's a talking point as well, isn't it?
Definitely. So thank you very much for joining me today, Sarah. It's been really interesting and useful to lots of people, I'm sure. So thank you very much. And I will be back in 2 weeks' time when I'm going to be talking to Anne Vigouroux, who's marketing and communications expert within the financial services sector. So Anne was a client of mine several years ago, so I'm looking forward to chatting to her. So thank you again, and see you next time. So thank you, Sarah.
Bye.